Hi folks, this is Dr. Burke Mays with Pathways Integrative Health Center. In our office, we specialize in helping and supporting people dealing with long-term chronic health issues. And almost always we find in most patients there's an underlying, undiagnosed, or just not well-managed thyroid issue or thyroid dilemma. And one of the questions you should ask any practitioner that you're dealing with for your health concerns is, how does stress and the effects of stress affect my thyroid? And I can't go into this, there's a whole other video I could do on the stress response and on adrenal function. I really can't get into that here. But just real briefly, when you're under stress, that can be mental stress, chemical stress, physical stress, emotional stress, financial stress, all those stresses that affect us. What happens is a hormone in our body called cortisol gets elevated. So keep that in mind. I want to go back to just some really basic parts of how the thyroid works. Up here in your brain, there's a gland called the hypothalamus. And the hypothalamus senses and measures a lot of body activity, and then it comes down and tells your pituitary to release a hormone called TSH. TSH goes down to your thyroid, tells your thyroid to make the thyroid hormones. It makes those in two forms. T3, which is about 7%, is the active form. That's what goes out and turns your cells on, makes your cells do things. T4 is the other 93% plus, which does a couple things. One, it loops back up to the brain, tells the brain how the levels are. Your brain responds and either creates more TSH or less TSH, depends on demands. But the other part goes out to the liver, about 40%, and the gut, about 20%, where it converts that T4 into T3. That loops out and goes to your cells, tells your cells to turn on and do something. That's the thyroid function in a nutshell. We're going to talk about real briefly is a couple of areas where cortisol affects that. First area that cortisol, that stress hormone affects, is right up here in the hypothalamus. The hypothalamus is really sensitive to elevated cortisol. And if cortisol goes up, either you're under lots of stress for long periods of time, or you have nutritional deficiencies that don't allow you to process and bring cortisol down normally. Whatever happens, if cortisol is elevated inappropriately, that's going to shut down the hypothalamus. It's going to affect a lot of things, from reproductive hormone function to, we're talking today here about thyroid function. It reduces that production of the hormones. It tells the pituitary to make the TSH and turns everything down. So that's part number one, where things get shut down. The other part where it's going to affect is going to be here at the level of the gut and at the liver, where elevated cortisol or inappropriately handled cortisol turns down that conversion, where you're not converting T4 to T3. So you might be making the right hormones, but you're not converting T4 to T3, so then you're acting like you don't have enough. And last but not least is right out here at the cell. Your cells are covered with what we call receptor sites. Kind of imagine that a cell is like a factory. A factory is turned off, everything's all shut down, and somebody comes up to the door of that factory, sticks a key in the door, turns the door, opens up, a person walks in, flips the switch, turns the whole factory on. Well, what happens is cortisol acts like it blocks that key. It blocks that keyhole, so the thyroid hormones don't work. So we got three areas. Up in the brain, at the gut and liver, and at the cell is where stress can shut down thyroid activity, making you feel like you're a hypothyroid person with the weight gain, the weight issues, the brain fog, the aches and pains, the digestive problems, a whole host of things. So if you're seeing a practitioner, you want to ask them, are they addressing the effects of cortisol? In our office, we do that all the time. I like to do it by questionnaires, see how your body's responding to things. We can do lab work if it's really necessary. But addressing the stress response is a really key element to dealing with chronic conditions, including thyroid. So thank you for watching. Hope you got something out of this, and I look forward to hearing from you soon. Thanks.